Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. The record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today is Wednesday, the 30th day of May 2018. I trust that everyone had a restful, enjoyable night. You're up and raring to go this morning. No rain when I was coming in, so it looks as if the weather system has passed us by at this point in time. But no reason whatsoever for you not to still drive cautiously, drive responsibly, stay within the speed limits on the road. But that doesn't mean if the speed limit says 40 miles an hour, depending on the traffic, you may not be able to go 40 miles an hour. But some will try to do that as well. So stay within the speed limit, within reason. The whole idea, again, at the end of the day, is that you're trying to get from point A to point B. You want to get there in a safe manner, and you want to ensure that everyone else who's on the road with you is able to enjoy that safety as well. So I want to thank you, our listening and viewing audience, for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orit Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. During that period, our phone lines are always open. There's always someone there waiting to take your calls. Normally, that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flo. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Also, email us at fortherecord, that is one word, fortherecord at candw.ky, and we have a WhatsApp number, 925-3261, where you can leave a voice note or send us a text message. If you send us a voice note, then the contents of that voice note will be played during the course of the show, and a text message, we will read the contents of that as well. We just ask that you keep both of those clean as far as the language is concerned. Of course, today we're going to have open mic. We have no one in the studio, no plans to have anyone in the studio today. Several things I want to talk about. I want to talk about unemployment in the Cayman Islands. I know a lot of you don't necessarily read the Caymanian Compass anymore. I say Caymanian, they call it Cayman. I believe I can conjecture as to the reasons why they call it Cayman rather than Caymanian. If you say Caymanian, then you're identifying it with the Caymanian people. But if you say Cayman, you're just simply identifying it with the Cayman Islands, which I believe if they could deny that, they probably would as well deny the fact that it is Cayman. So they don't call it the Caymanian Compass anymore, call it the Cayman Compass. Caymanian would imply some, or you could deduce from it some Caymanian involvement, some Caymanian ownership or something of that nature as well. But we're going to talk about an editorial, and I did some research last night. Didn't get to do as much as I wanted to on it, but I think I have enough to cover for 2 hours if I had to talk about this issue for 2 hours. And that editorial reads, "Keeping Government out of Cayman's employment business. Like I said, I know a lot of you don't necessarily like to read the Compass anymore because for whatever reason, and some do like to read it as well. But if you get an opportunity to go online, because I want you to focus on that particular editorial. What is so ironic about the whole thing, though, is that editorial goes on to talk about this new agency that the Premier has established. And if you look in the print version, as opposed to the online version of the newspaper, on the opposite page, there's an article, Permanent Leadership at WORC, Fair Employment, quote, Fair Employment Board Uncertain. So there's an article on one side, an editorial on the other side in relation to this. And while I'm knocking heads at this point in time, for those of you who do follow the Cayman Compass, have you noticed anything recently? Several weeks ago, several months ago, a lot of focus was placed on the whole issue of permanent resident applications. We don't see much of it anymore. Could it be because the issue is settling down now? They're getting what they want? Or could it be, like I have questioned previously as well, could it be that someone within the staff of the Caymanian Compass was conflicted in relation to the whole issue of permanent residence if they had an application pending before the board as well, or if they may have been part of those legal challenges that were initiated in relation to this as well. Just questions that I'm asking in that regard. But if you notice, we don't see a whole lot now about permanent resident applications and everything else. Okay, that's for the Compass for now, but we're going to be coming back to that editorial because what I also did was I Googled Caymanian Compass and unemployment to see exactly, to look at previous articles in relation to unemployment as well as other editorials in this regard. And there's one thing that I must say, that they have been consistent. They have been consistent in relation to not wanting government to interfere with it. They have not, in my opinion, been necessarily sympathetic to the Caymanian point of view, especially the or underemployed Caymanians. But you do it for yourselves. You Google it, read back on some of the articles and editorials that they have written and form your own opinion of it as well, if you feel that it is interested and if you have sufficient time to do so. Switching gears for a minute, we talk about bad driving. One of our listeners wrote about bad driving on the road as well, and reckless driving. And the person says that they witnessed on the 29th, that would have been yesterday, that they witnessed a white F-150 Ford truck. And we have the license plate, and I'm going to read the license plate number as well, because I'm not giving names, but I'm going to give the license plate number 178283, because if my vehicle is out there and driving recklessly on the road, erratically, dangerously, endangering other people's lives, I want you to call me out too and report me to the traffic department. I'm not sure what they can do in relation to a report being submitted because no one is there to see it other than the person. But I would imagine that the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service and the traffic department could still find the driver or the owner of that vehicle and approach them and tell them that there have been complaints or a complaint in relation to your driving on the road, and caution them in that regard. I'm not sure that if there's anything legally wrong about them doing that. Anyway, the person says, I witnessed a white Ford F-150, license plate number 178283, driving extremely reckless this morning to the point that he overtook a car leading up to a corner. I was terrified that if a vehicle was coming from the opposite direction, they would collide. Believe it or not, 2 other idiots followed his lead and overtook the same vehicle, which was complying with the speed limit in the area, but clearly the driver was not driving fast enough for those who overtook the vehicle. And this occurred on Shamrock Road, coming from the east into Georgetown. The person says such recklessness is the cause of many accidents which involve law-abiding drivers becoming the victims. Again, we talk about this recklessness on the roads. We see it. And I'm almost certain that almost every driver out there has experienced it at some point in time and can attest to the fact that this is occurring. So again, want to be careful. But if the traffic department wants that license plate number, we have it. You may want to caution the driver. And I noticed there is still a police presence on Linford-Pearson Highway. So it would be good to have them. It's good to have them there. Sometimes we have them on what we call the Spot Straight area as well. Good to have them there. But we have that information in relation to the license plate for that white Ford F-150. One caller, let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O.C. How are you doing?
Good morning, my friend, Mr. Saunders. How are you?
I am fine. Listen, I'm just going to give a little bit of advice this morning, if you don't mind.
Uh-huh.
I know as you're getting ready to speak about this Compass editorial concerning government staying out of the employment business.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the reality of it is I just wouldn't pay them any mind. Because at the end of the day, I think everyone is aware that they have their own agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is clearly obvious.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And if you look, you take out the Friday paper, you look at the back of the newspaper, the amount of business that they make from job advertisements alone. Until we sit down and actually start allowing people or businesses to pretty much advertise in the government gazette or something and start reducing costs of businesses, the reality of it is, they make a lot of money from it. Let's be realistic now.
Oh, we know because we know how they cried when the government threatened to take away their advertising business from them. We knew that hurt at that point in time. The possibility of that happening hurt.
Well, I can say this much: the ability to advertise in a gazette is one of the things I'll actually be focusing on, and not to take anything from them, but rather more just to reduce the cost of doing businesses. Because if businesses are being forced to spend all of this money to advertise, that's a cost of doing business and run business up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see why the government having its own gazette can't somehow get into that business too. So from that standpoint, that's one of the things that we'll be looking at that should hopefully save businesses some kind of expense in that regard. You know what I mean? So the taxpayers will get a little relief because at least government can make a little bit of revenue from that. You know what I mean? And businesses will get a little relief because I'm sure we can actually do it at a cheaper cost. So that's definitely something worth looking into. And I think next time you have the government inside there, you should encourage them to say, what's to stop people and others, from even finding, ways of reducing the cost of doing business. Where government have their own gazette, have their own little thing, that can help businesses. Naturally, of course, this will take revenues out of their pockets. So, that'd be a little bit sad, but at the end of the day, listen, these guys have their own agenda. It's been like that from day one. And I really don't want to sit down and waste any time on any editorial, because if there's one thing that we know about the media business is that while they can't tell you what to think, they can tell you what to think about. And they do that in three ways. One, agenda setting, which is the big headlines that they would have. I mean, last week, Friday newspaper, the big headline on that was about the airport retail stores. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm looking at it, I'm kind of like, who is really worried about the retail stores inside the airport? You know what I mean? But for whatever reason, that was the headline that they go with. And I mean, it's their choice. I mean, it's their newspaper. They can print anything that they want.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remember saying, you know, there's more important things going on in the country, but whatever it is, the airport retail stores was supposed to be the big thing.
Mm.
So from to say who now is pushing for that, you know what I mean? You have the next thing they do is framing, or they basically frame the story, so they make you come to it the way in which you want it.
Yeah.
And then there's priming where, you know, they bits and pieces there and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Chris, you know, we normally take a break about this time. If you can hold on, because I want to continue this conversation with you, because we have to do away with this myth that is being created as well. And that is why we still have to continue to address these editorials. Sometimes we have to give them, we can ignore them, but sometimes we have to give them attention. Do you want to hold on? Let us do this commercial and then we come back? Okay.
Fine, yeah.
Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We still have Mr. Christopher Saunders, MLA Mr. Christopher Saunders on the line. Let's go back to the phone. Mr. Saunders, are you there?
Yeah,
Yes. You know, the Compass seems to want to berate, criticize political pundits, talk show hosts, and everyone else when we talk about unemployment in the Cayman Islands, when we talk about, you know, seeking good employment for Caymanians, when we talk about discrimination in the workforce against Caymanians. And then what they try to do, my belief is that they try to pit then Caymanians against expatriates, as opposed to the fact that it is the system and the institutions that really are the ones that are causing the harm, not the people themselves, not the human beings, the individuals, the Caymanians, and the expatriates.
Well, here's a simple question. So if government doesn't look after it, who must do it then?
Exactly.
You know, the thing about it is, a couple of weeks back, there was this big headline that says betrayal at the front. I think it was the editorial on the whole beneficial ownership issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people somehow believe that Caymanian people memory are short when this is the same one to get up. They literally accuse this country of rampant corruption. The same thing that overseas entities are trying to make. We have someone out there promoting it. Jump on a plane, ran to the U.S., say that they were feared for their life and all that kind of stuff. You know, these are the kind of stuff that damage our own reputation, and then get up the next day like nothing happened.
And then return and have to have a security guard drive around with him.
Yeah, you know, those are the kind of behavior that damage the reputation of the Cayman Islands. But yet, when other people say it now, all of a sudden, it's become like, and they fail to recognize that they're also part and parcel. I mean, that entire episode was an embarrassment to the country. But then they show up as if though there's some kind of savior to the country. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. I recognize a lot of politicians afraid to take on the media to some extent, because there's this old rule that you don't pick arguments with anyone that buys ink by the bar. But you see, the advantage that people like myself have, where one, you get elected and you don't need anybody coattail, you don't need any donations from any of these big old special interest groups. So all you need is just the voters get up and just saying enough is enough. So you know what? I have no problem sitting down calling them out for their hypocrisy and what it is that they stand for. Listen, whether you want to accept it or not, they have their own special interest agenda. It's not in the best interest of Cayman.
Mm-hmm.
And the good news is a lot of people in Cayman are already come to see it. That's the reality of it. You know what I mean? But again, the problem is they just keep making too much money from all of those job advertisements, and until somebody deal with that, they'll continue to basically berate us, belittle us, and all that kind of stuff. I still remember the headline when they had for the young kids them dirt bags on dirt bikes, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm,
These are the kind of stuff you're referring, calling our kids and all that. And then all of a sudden get up like you're some authority and some morals and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But you know what? Somebody needs to be dealing with a lot of these people. And I really feel bad because many of the staff there are really good people.
Well, I wanted to mention while you're on this issue of staff, when talking about the hypocrisy, it is my understanding, right? I don't necessarily have tangible proof of it, but it is my understanding that when the squeeze came in relation to government advertising, that there was some mention about the fact that if revenues were impacted, were cut, they would have to cut staff. And of course, it would be the Caymanian staff who would probably end up going first. You want anything, in terms of hypocrisy, if that was the case?
Listen, see, there are a lot of good people that work here. I've worked here for many years. And same as we have in the expatriate community, there are a lot of good, hard-working people that have come here over the years. Some have integrated, some have not. But the majority of the people that have come here have done well and have been as well. But there are just that few. And what we need to recognize is, and this is our own fault, we have imported a certain level of racism within this country. We have taken a whole pile of people from South Africa that the South Africans didn't want in their country for a specific reason. What do you think? Why do you think that is the case?
Or they didn't want to be there after
exactly.
Black government came to power.
I mean? So, and they've brought those issues here. You have people inside these gated communities now. When you drive through them, I've heard the stories, but no one wants to talk about it. The minute you bring it up, it's almost as if though, there's someone out there pulling this card or that card. Whether we want to accept it or not, we have imported some real unscrupulous, dirty-minded people inside this country, and we need to find them and we need to root them out. And there are a couple of them that's buried inside the media that they're pushing this agenda, wanting to create a Caymanian versus expat type mentality, the typical divide and conquer type stuff. And this is not the way to build a country.
Mm-hmm. Now, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so until we make up our mind that we know what, this is an issue that we need to deal with. Mm-hmm. Those amongst us who just hell-bent on building division, how can we move forward together as a united country when they're in key positions, powerful positions, they're just hell-bent in keeping this country divided? Okay.
Chris, I want to thank you for that. We're getting almost to time check. I want to just read the final paragraph in that editorial. Here's how it reads. This is not the first and certainly not the last time we will say it, quote, unquote. The government needs to resist the temptation to meddle in Cayman's businesses. Well, if Cayman's business, and this is what I'm saying, if Cayman's businesses involve the hiring or not hiring of Caymanians, then it is the government's business to intervene. They have an obligation to intervene. For those who may not know it, who may not have been here in 1972, go and read the Hansards in our Legislative Assembly when the Caymanian Protection Law was being introduced. That would have been 1971, being introduced by Mr. Benson Ebanks. At that time, our politicians in this regard were visionaries because they saw exactly what was coming on the horizon. With a successful economy, growing economy, we were going to need to bring people in to be employed in the Cayman Islands, and at the same time, in doing that, we needed to protect the inherent rights of Caymanians. We're going to take a break now to go to the 8 o'clock news. When we come back, that is where we will continue from. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're no one in the studio, but we're talking about various topics we're discussing. Started out by talking about the Compass editorial, And I'm going to continue to talk about that, but I'm going to place more focus really on what government proposes to do and what this editorial was focusing on. Before we do that, we have one caller, and I just want to read some of the remarks that we have. Says, have we protected the inherent rights of Caymanians? That's a question mark from one of our listeners. We even have a problem defining who is a Caymanian, is much less, sometimes protecting the inherent right, of Caymanians as well. And then, of course, they developed this new Caymanian for us as well, the ghost Caymanian. You can interpret ghost as meaning one of two things, right? A ghost can mean, being a ghost can mean it doesn't exist. There's nothing there, or in this case, whether or not something that you can't see. So I guess it depends on how you interpret ghost as well, and whether or not they're saying Caymanians are ghosts because they really don't exist. I also have an email from one listener in relation to an issue that they're having with the national team and a child, and I want to paraphrase what has been shared with us here, and if anything, try to give some guidance as to how this can be addressed, where the writer may go to have the issue addressed as well. But before we do that, let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.C.
Morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well. I was listening to the tail end of your, before the break, making the suggestion that government should stop basically mingling in the affairs of private sector as it relates to the I guess the employment situation.
Yeah, that was the final paragraph in that editorial.
Right. These people is ranking out of order. I mean, they are seriously ranking out of order. I believe that well, I for one, every morning that I get up now, because they got us feeling so now every morning I get up, I look in the mirror, make sure I got a sign on my head saying I'm an idiot. Because these people they come here and they think every one of us is idiot. We have no education. We our only means of survival is because they have landed on our shores. I mean, this is so inherently wrong. Mm-hmm. They have to understand that they are subject to the regulatory regimes that has been put in place by past governments, and they will be subject to it as long as they operate and own a business in the Cayman Islands, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right? I mean, when we really look at the audacity of some of these that comes to our shores, I'd like to commend the government for what they have just done with the creation of the new department there. I believe that will go a long way in ensuring that Caymanians get employment. Mm-hmm. I believe it's a step in the right direction. I commend them for that, and I hope that they continue to find ways and means of making sure that these companies that come in here is just not allowed to walk all over us, bring in their cheap labor or their good friends who are not qualified for the positions, which is happening every day. But hopefully this new regime will be able to deal with it. And I think it's time now too that the police utilize obtain the pecuniary advantage by deception, because there is so, as it relates to the workforce, that is, mm-hmm, there is so many of them coming here with fake certificates, mm-hmm, and having a clue as to what they're doing. So they're allowed to advance for remuneration or greater remuneration in office or place. And yet the Caymanians that are here is subject to more scrutiny than any who comes to our shores. O.C., thanks a lot, and I'll leave you at that.
Thank you very much, caller. What you say there is so apropos, really, really relevant to what we're talking about. I want to thank you for sharing that with us. One of our listeners has written, and she's taken time to write and to explain the situation. So I want to attempt to address it at this point in time. And the person indicates that their issue is that they have a child who is the leading goal scorer in all three of the leagues that she has played in, and was also the leading goal scorer for the CUC League and MVP for the league during her last season. So the parent is puzzled as to how a young Caymanian with such a natural talent can be eliminated from our own national team. The writer also points out that they met with the president of FIFA as well as the head coach, and they both agreed that they were not aware of the decision to cut this individual from the team, and they both advised that the decision came from the assistant coach. The president also said that he was told that they were splitting the teams into an A and B team and did not read the letters, and they didn't read the letters when they were signing them, which is, if that is true, that's a terrible mistake. Always read what you sign before you sign. As he was told, it was just a split, not a dismissal of any players. They also acknowledged that this young person is one of the top players, not only in her club, but also in the league. She also points out that the president of, I guess it wouldn't be FIFA, it would probably be CIFA, Cayman Islands Football Association, advised that he had spoken to the assistant coach and asked her the reasons for the dismissal. She says that the reasons given were vague and petty, such as coming late to practice, using her cell phone during the training breaks, which she was never told that she couldn't do. And they all agreed at the time that these reasons were not solid enough reasons for cutting her from the team. The president also stated that he had been more, there had been more concerning issues we would understand for her. But for her to cut her, and he stated that they would want her to rejoin the team and they would reissue a new letter. And then the writer says, today, however, I received a message from from the president of CIFA advising me that, quote, for some reason, the assistant coach does not want the individual on the team. So the writer is saying, I am kindly asking that you address this matter on your show and invite opinions from the public on the matter, as this is a young Caymanian with talent and promise, and for her to be held back for unjustified reasons is an issue that needs to be brought to the attention of all my fellow Caymanians. Right is right and wrong is wrong. This should not be allowed. I just want to say that on grounds of natural justice, if an action is being taken against a person for whatever reasons, the person should be advised of those reasons, given an opportunity to respond to them and to defend themselves before a decision is made. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know whether or not this individual's constitutional rights have been breached, because in our Constitution, you can only, it only addresses the relationship between the individual and the government. Now, the Cayman Islands Football Association, at one point in time, I don't know if it's been restored yet, we're receiving funding from government, financial support from government, and everything else. But it would be useful to speak to a lawyer to see whether or not some rights have been abridged, even if it may be, the right to natural justice in terms of being able to face your accusers and to address what you're being accused of. We see it happen in the United States of America all of the time when people challenge things in court, as a result, of that. So my advice to you would be seek the advice of a lawyer. First, maybe go back to Cayman Islands Football Association and say to them, I'm not accepting, what you're telling me in this letter. I want to know specifically why. You need to put it in writing, and you need to give my daughter an opportunity to respond to it before you are able to take the actions that you have taken. Otherwise, seek some legal advice on it. We have several calls queued up, so we're going to take a commercial break so that we won't have to interrupt during the course of those calls. So callers, please hang in there. Quick commercial break, and we will be right back. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're going straight to the phone lines. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, Mr. O.C. It's Johan Mark.
Morning. How are you, sir?
I'm all right, sir. Just wanted to shift gears a little bit, and it's in part of what you were discussing earlier. But first of all, I wanted to congratulate you for what I think was an unprecedented radio appearance on Friday morning, I believe it was, when we had the Premier, the Leader of the Opposition, and MLA Chris Saunders. In my adult life, I don't remember having both sides of the aisle on the same page ever, speaking in unison, presenting a united front, and speaking to the country like that. So
that is true. I can't take credit for it, though. I must say that was something that was agreed amongst both parties. They actually initiated, which is a good thing as well. That they decided together. We need to come on together and talk about this. I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't.
Well, you were the facilitator, and Radio Cayman provided them the platform, so that
yes.
was great, and it gives us hope for what could happen in the future going forward. And in that vein, again, for the record, I think the Premier, Minister Tara Rivers, Financial Services, I think they're doing a commendable job. I've acknowledged that, given them their sort of plaudits for their efforts. Again, the constitutional overreach by the UK should be a concern to all of us, because if we have people across the pond legislating anything and any time they want, it kind of makes a mockery of our own elected politicians and Parliament in general. So there are significant issues and dangers with that. So I support the elected government on that. Having said that, sir, can you imagine if we had the level of unity and cohesion on all issues, domestic, also foreign, that are impacting the Cayman Islands? Imagine if we could get the Premier, the Leader of the Opposition, you have Mr. McKeever Bush, who's currently the Speaker of the House, but the leader of a political party that is effectively propping up the majority-led PPM coalition, National Unity Government. Can you imagine if all 19 of our MLAs could do exactly what they're doing now, getting on the same page, being united, and addressing the key issues that are impacting Caymanians every single day, whether it be the rise in crime, the high cost of living and escalating cost of living for Caymanians, employment opportunities for Caymanians, improving our public educational system, healthcare, so on and so forth. Wouldn't that be an incredible thing? Because what I've taken great pride in is the fact that, yes, I understand politics is an adversarial sort of business, but on this issue, everybody's decided to circle the wagons, sing from the same hymn sheet, and work together. So the precedent is now set that these men and women can, when they want to, and if they choose to, and if there is a collected purpose work together in the best interest to help every Caymanian, our Caymanian way of life, and the voters of the Cayman Islands to ensure that we stand a fighting chance of surviving in the country. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of people that live in ivory towers. There are people that control media houses that live in a bubble that don't understand the plight of the average Caymanian. They really don't, and it's unrealistic of us to expect somebody who is yet to leave their gated community, who has security all the time, to understand what you are going through, I'm going through, or any Caymanian might be going through, because they don't touch, feel, smell, or understand the struggle of the average Caymanian.
If I can interrupt you there for a second, caller, that is the same thought process that I had, and I was going to raise it later on in relation to the Caymanian Compass as well. Do they go out on the waterfront? Do they go down to Rockhole? Do they go to the Hell gas station? Do they go to on Eastern Avenue and sit down and talk to people and hear people's concerns, Caymanians' concerns? They don't do that, but I do that, and I know, when people complain, they think the Compass seem to think that 300 and something Caymanians unemployed is not of any significance.
Sir, that's because people that express that view have a fundamental lack of respect for Caymanians, things Caymanian, and our Caymanian way of life. We have had people that have come here, and I believe in full integration. I believe that you grow the country by incorporating people into the country. That's a natural part of how you develop a country. But at the end of the day, there are people that now call themselves Caymanians that don't have any Caymanian friends, that don't interact with any Caymanians, that don't understand what it is to be Caymanian. They have Caymanian status, they have a Caymanian passport, and it is a luxury that they have, but full integration has never been something that really is something that they've wanted to do. And those Caymanians that they do interact with are at the upper end of the echelon. So Cayman is a very segmented and disconnected society where you have classes within classes, but we don't call that what it is. So you just got to understand and know the beast that you're dealing with, and understand that they'll never understand who O.C. Connery is and where he comes from, or his family, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of generalizations, but we're responsible for that because we don't do a good enough job of vetting who becomes Caymanian. We really don't. We just give it away like it's candies, and our immigration policies are too lax. It's too easy to become Cayman to become Caymanian, and that is something that people don't want to hear. But I challenge you to try and become Bermudian. I challenge you to become a belonger in the BVI. It's very, very difficult, but everybody comes here and everybody decides that they should now tell us how to run our house, which, again, that isn't their fault, The fault is ours because we show a lack of courage to stand up and say, no, you're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. This is how we're going to do things in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah,
These are the rules. No, I was just going to finish off by saying, Mr. O.C., imagine if we could get the politicians again to be on the same page. We would not have Caymanian unemployment, we would not have a poor educational system, and we would not have rising crime and rising costs. And that is something that we all have to hold them accountable for, because the precedent has been set, and they can do it if they want. The pressure now needs to be applied by us, but I congratulate them for having that level of political maturity. Yes, they do a lot of things that are politically expedient, but on this issue, it now needs to be extended to all of the core issues in the country so that the Caymanians ultimately win in the Cayman Islands.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. And I'm sure that there are many issues that the opposition and the government are in accord with, and I'll let the opposition talk about those on Friday when they come in as well. We have another caller holding. I just want to say that those persons who acquire Caymanian status, you need to question sometimes if they acquire it by grant with no connections to the Cayman Islands whatsoever. My question is, do they want Caymanian status because they want to be Caymanian, they feel and think like Caymanians, or do they want it as a matter of convenience because it makes life a little bit easier for them as far as staying in the Cayman Islands, working in the Cayman Islands as well. We still have a caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Sorry to keep you waiting so long. I think we lost one caller.
No problem, Osi. I have no problem with that. The gentleman was quite informative. What I'm calling on actually was in relation to the letter and the lady with the football issue.
Yes.
My thing is with that, as she wanted the opinion of the public, is that does sound personal, personal vendetta right there. But like you told her to check with a lawyer on it. Do not let it sit. Move from there. And unfortunately, that happens not only in football, it happens in other sports and stuff here, especially with Caymanian children, ones that are excelling in that sport or something. They get to a certain level, and for some reason, we do not have the support to push them over. Those kids have to sometimes go to another country and play for that country, or do something in another country instead of doing it here. Because one thing that I've noticed since I've been back is Caymanians do not really support sports as much as other countries do. You know, you have things in relation to sports and they do not get the support. Like, we go to basketball, it's just like maybe a parent is sitting there or something and these teams and stuff are playing. The support is not there. So that is one thing that I think as Caymanians that we need to rally behind our athletes more and push them more. And not only the Caymanian people, but the government as well. They're not putting that funding into getting these athletes up to par. It's like you always have to beg and beg and beg. And you don't need apples or bananas. You need cash, hard, cold cash. To help these people with training, with strength training, with uniforms, you know, for travel, for food, for whatever, you know, to get them going. And if you're not getting that, how are you going to keep them encouraged? How do we keep them encouraged? Yeah, they can encourage themselves to a certain point, but it's nothing like having either your family behind you or your country behind you or your government, you know, behind you to push you up. It's not there. You see other countries like Jamaica, Bahamas, Barbados. Oh my gosh! Of course, we're like the U.S. and whatever. Those are huge countries. But like us here in this Caribbean basin, it's just a small collective of us, you know, here. So we do have to support our athletes. And when issues and stuff like this come up, don't let it sit. Don't let it go to the bottom of the pond and just sit there. No, we have to keep that into the public eye and let people know what's going on, and then others have to support and try and find out and understand what it is and try and fix the issue around that problem. The other thing is you're all talking about the Caymanian part on there. You said just now, people in Cayman, when they get started, say that they're here either basically for work, for play, for ease or travel or something. I know some people right now, the thing is it's so easy to get, what you call, is it Caymanian residency or something?
Permanent residence, yeah.
Permanent resident. They just pay us cash, put that down, boom, done. They're here. They don't associate with Caymanians. Granted, how many Caymanians are left? We are a dying breed. And I have to say, we, as being a Caymanian, born of two Caymanian parents, we are a dying breed. Out of what, almost 7-something thousand people are on this island, and maybe 13 or 15 are actual Caymanians, and half of those are not full Caymanians. It is crazy. And then Caymanians, we can't afford to have children here like how they used to have 7 and 10 children back in the day and were able to do it. Gosh, people can hardly get by feeding 2 and 3 children, you know, right now. So it is, and they come here, and you know, they always got this thing they call this you know, the slithering snake. You get these, they come and they get into these corporations, and they put them up in particular positions, and if Caymanians are there, they put their foot in the Caymanian neck. And in order for you to either keep your job, you don't squeal. For goodness, don't try scream, and try not to move. Because they will kill you. Literally kill your career. They do it. And the thing is, these people at the top, they talk to one another. That's why most Caymanians, how many Caymanians do you find really are in top positions? No, they're either in middle positions or they're down at the bottom, scraping, right? And the ones in the middle are beginning to scrape now, even if they do not understand it or see it. They are beginning to scrape now. And a lot of them is just, they go with the flow. Wherever the river go, they go with the flow. If they hit a bump, they just bounce off of it and go inside and not say anything.
Caller, I'm going to ask you to leave us there. Very good points that you've brought across to us, and I'm almost certain that I know that you're speaking from experience, as well in that area. Yes, thank you very much for that, caller. We're going to take a commercial break, folks. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I think we're having some difficulties with our toll-free number, the 1-800-534-8255. If you're having problems getting through there, if you call 949-7799, and we will get the number, and then we will call you back. This way, it won't cost you anything in terms of the call as well. So that number, 949-7799. Call that number if you're having difficulty getting through on the 1-800 number, as well. Or you can call 949-6990 as well. Question in relation to Cayman Islands Football Association. I was thinking whether or not they have set criteria in terms of who will make the national team and who will not make it. And other than verbal communications in terms of a player to coach saying, well, you need to improve in this area, you need to improve in that area, you need to train more or whatever, are there written guidelines in terms of how you can make the national team? We know if you have if you field 5 members on a particular team, right? You may have a full team of 10 members, but you can only field 5 at a time. So you know then that it is the coach's choice as to the combination that he wants on that team at any point in time. Who that coach will then decide who the players will be on the field or on the court at that time. That is understandable. But in terms of qualifying for the national team, is it by a whim and a fancy, or do you have certain written criteria that and guidelines that you go by? Just a question. If someone knows the answer, please call in. Please send us a WhatsApp or send us an email at fortherecord@candw.ky. Or, like I said, send us a WhatsApp on 925-3261. Callers, do we have a caller, Ms. Susan? One caller, let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
I had the answer, but you made me lose it a bit too long. Lucy, how are you?
I'm good, and yourself?
Good. Mr. Connor, the Red Cross.
Mm-hmm.
People are sticking things out there, right, for people to come and collect if it's usable. I mean, out there, sometimes it is ridiculous the way that people go out there and scan through those things and take what they want and let the rest hanging.
Mm-hmm.
I think it needs to have some more restriction on that ground when people bring stuff there for. Then they should have certain days that you're allowed to come on there and look to see that then you can use. If it can't be used, take away immediately. I know that furniture that been sitting on that porch there now in all this water, this rain. I know it can't be any more good.
Mm-hmm.
But, I want to take you back to your childhood. You remember Cayman days, especially Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is so clean and shining.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not a piece of junk in the yard, not a broken chair. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But look at Cayman. Look at Cayman today. When you drive through Cayman and see how Cayman has become a garbage dump throughout the whole island and people's yards, and we have no law here to say, hey, something ought to be done in these residential areas in every district keep down germs and disease, infections, and you just name it, and it goes on from there. And you know what? That later last part of the conversation was very good. And Mr. Moxham, he hit the nail on the head with a lot of stuff about Cayman. It is so sad that you can come here and get a residence within so much time. When you go and apply for residence or citizenship in America or anywhere else, you got to wait till almost 80, 90 years of age. You come here today and tomorrow, you practically got it. But I just want to say that when it comes to treatment here in this country, if you all of this don't think for 1 second that these visitors that come to visit us here in this island to abuse us as taxi drivers, restaurants, and water sports and so forth, we all have another guest coming. We get our share of views from those people just as much as those who's working here on our island. And something needs to be done. And when I say something needs to be done, if you want kindness and respect from me, you give it back. Give me, and I give you. You know what I mean? I went down to Safe Haven yesterday. Oh, see, that road down there is terrible, and it got a pothole down there, almost like the size of a well. It is ridiculous that every time it rains down that area, nothing is being done to the roads down there.
Do we know if that's private or is that a public road?
I don't know what is that. Oh, see, it has a Holiday Inn down there, and it got Crystal Harbor down there, which all these nice fancy homes. And for those two roads to be driving on to go in there, one part is locked off, to gate it off, and so forth. But the fact remains, the road is so bad. And when you cross that golf course place, the cars there by the galore. And to how those kind of homes down that area, they should have a gold-lined road for you to drive on down there, because they got some very beautiful homes down that area. Just saying that to say that the road should be a lot better for whoever's going to come in and out of there. You know what I mean? So I just want to say the road work. We've been using this Barbara Green on this road for years, and it's not working. And I have not heard of anyone say they want to put to something better for our roads. They take our road and they stock it with all this soft marl, and then put all this Barbara Green on top of it, or whatever the heck it's called. And after a little rain, it eats right through. We need to find a solution for our roads, because then all we are doing is wasting money. Or see, if I had $1 for every piece of Barbara Green they pulled up there just here on Linford Pearson Highway, if I had $1 for every piece of that, I would pay off all those people homes in foreclosure and buy them food and buy them water. Believe me, we are wasting money left, right, and center on our streets, and we don't have no emergency lead for the ambulance or the police department, and yet we are still fixing roads.
Okay.
Just want to leave that with you.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. Just want to say on the Red Cross situation, I have heard that there are people who actually go there, rummage through what is put in those bins, and take what they want and just leave. This is before it actually gets into the Red Cross shop or whatever. That people rummage through what is brought there as well. So that could be an issue in relation to that. The caller spoke about the roads and the asphalting. Now I believe, and I'm not an engineer, but there might be a solution to the whole issue of placing the asphalt over the marl, but it can be a very, very expensive endeavor. I have seen jurisdictions where they have first laid concrete and then put the asphalt over the concrete. Now, if we think that we're paying a lot to pave our roads now, if you had to do that with concrete as well, believe you me, it could be extremely costly, but I believe that it would last longer, because then you don't have the salt and whatever else coming through to get through the asphalt, which eventually results in potholes, as well. But my good friend, the road engineer, he may want to share some views on that as well. So send me a WhatsApp. You know who I'm talking about. Send me a WhatsApp in relation to that as well. What I want to do, if we don't have any callers now, what I want to do, I'm going to start now, and hopefully I can finish it before we go to our 9 o'clock headline news. The WOR announced as a new CI government department. This is a press release issued by the government, because this is what the whole article in the editorial in the Caymanian Compass was all about. And WORC stands for Workforce Opportunities and Residency. Cayman says taking steps towards fulfilling the campaign mandate of establishing a new department geared towards restructuring the country's labor market. The Cayman Islands government has announced WORC, Workforce Opportunities and Residency Cayman, as the name of the department that will take the initiative forward. With WORC, and this is a quote, "We are redesigning how employment and workforce development in the Cayman Islands is managed, with a focus on two interrelated elements: full Caymanian employment and a well-supplied business community that is globally competitive," Interim Director of WORC Sharon Rolston said. This is not simply a merger of the Department of Immigration and the National Workforce Development Agency. It is entirely brand new. She continued. This new department aims to deliver durable employment and opportunities for the advancement of Caymanians through development, training, internship, apprenticeship, and partnership with private sector businesses. Additionally, the department will have responsibility for the processing of work permits, permanent residency, and Caymanian status applications. WORC's business process and technology platforms will not only help Caymanian job seekers and employers more efficiently find each other through an online job clearinghouse, it would help identify, train, and develop those Caymanians who need additional skills and support to effectively compete in and provide value to the job market, Ms. Rolston said. So I want to go back to this part here about the new department aims to deliver durable employment and opportunities for the advancement of Caymanians through development, training, internship, and partnership with private sector businesses. Additionally, the department will have responsibility for the processing of work permits, permanent residence, and Caymanian status. That is excellent. That is ideal. You have the same entity that is going to be processing those work permits, renewals, and grants, that will also be dealing with the employment of Caymanians. So it is a situation where the right hand will know what the left hand is doing, because the right hand and the left hand are on the same body and they're working in unison with each other rather than going their separate ways. This is exactly what we need in the Cayman Islands, because right now the Work Permit Board has a very, very difficult challenge in keeping employers honest and also holding their feet to the fire when it comes to employing Caymanians. So by having control over work permits, you have the ability to withhold them when you feel it is necessary. With that, we'll go to headline news, and I will continue to read the press release when we return. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're going to pause the phone calls just for a few minutes so that I can complete the reading of this press release in relation to the Workforce Opportunities and Residency Cayman. So the release goes on to say WORC will engage with the business community and incorporate new systems and processes that enable us to collect the data needed to make informed decisions going forward, she said. By analyzing the data collected, we can inform learning institutions, and training program designers on gaps in the labor market so they can tailor their program to best prepare Caymanians for roles that will be in demand. The new department was envisioned by the Premier and Minister for Human Resources and Immigration, Honorable Alden McLaughlin. Through this reform initiative, our objective is to ensure all Caymanians successfully attain employment where every Caymanian who is able, willing, and qualified to work has a job, Mr. McLaughlin said. Now, the media has a way of and these are my words now, the media has a way of mischaracterizing this whole thing about employment for all Caymanians. We know that it is impossible to have all Caymanians employed because all Caymanians are not all employable for various reasons, because of age, because of disabilities. So when the term is used, employment for all Caymanians, it's used in a context, just like the Premier has said, those who are willing and able and qualified to be able to have a job. And the Premier also added, the key to growth is a flourishing private sector business community, but to grow sustainably, Cayman's robust economy was founded on the strong entrepreneurial spirit of Caymanians, and we plan to continue our progress forward, leaving no one behind. So, again, the press may want to use scare tactics in terms of businesses, but if you're a business and if you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to worry about. It's just like they say, about U.S. President Trump. If you're innocent, then you have nothing to worry about. So, but it is quite obvious that what the government's agenda and what they're aiming to do is to work with the business community, not marginalize them, not victimize the business community. They're seeking to work with them. Now, there will be some out there in the business community who don't want to work with them because they have a history of not wanting to hire Caymanians, and they find every reason, every excuse to not hire a Caymanian or Caymanians. Those are the ones that have something to fear, and those are the ones who the government will be addressing. Now, I want to say this because I'm speaking now on behalf of the people of the Cayman Islands, and some of you may question, who's you to speak on behalf of the Cayman Islands? Well, I'm going to take that responsibility. I'm going to shoulder that responsibility this morning and speak on the majority of Caymanians. We are not going to allow our existence, we are not going to allow our cultural and historical identity to be lost in the Cayman Islands and to be lost at the expense of persons wishing to enrich themselves. I caution you, we do not want it to happen. We will not allow it to happen. Don't take our sweetness for weakness, because as you've seen before, and you will see in the future, when there is a common threat, we will circle the wagons and we will defend our heritage, our existence to the hilt. With that, the phone lines are back open. If you want to call in and talk, I want to address the politicians in West Bay. One individual is complaining about the state of the buildings down by the West Bay Clinic, and they point out that it is a disgrace that the grounds are not kept clean, as well as the clinic grounds. They speak about the limbs that are falling off palm trees and just lying around on the ground, and questioning what are the politicians doing about that. I would also question what is it that the Recreation and Parks unit is doing about it, if they're the ones that are charged with maintaining the government properties such as that, or whether or not it has been contracted out to the private sector. I would hope not, and that someone is not monitoring, what is happening there in that regard. So, person is questioning the limbs that are dropping on the ground, the status of the area where the West Bay Clinic is, and the buildings there as well. Okay, gotta switch gears. Again, had the opportunity, and I just want to pass this information on to those of you who are interested in this. Going back to the sanctions and anti-money laundering bill, and we know that the Crown dependencies, that is Jersey, Guernsey, and the Isle of Man, were treated quite differently than the British overseas territories. And I'm continuing to do research on this because I was curious to know why that came about, and what also happened there, why they were able to, the Crown dependencies were able to be successful and at least achieving temporary success in ensuring that the legislation in relation to legislating for the overseas territories and the Crown dependencies, that portion was not put into the bill, was that they had people on the ground. I think their chief minister went to the UK along with someone else, and they went there to remind the UK ministers and the politicians of the constitutional arrangement that they have with the UK. And if you're interested in knowing Jersey's relationship with the UK, and you can do so for Guernsey and the Isle of Man as well, I found a document, and it is entitled Framework for Developing the International Identity of Jersey. And it's intended to clarify the constitutional relationship between the UK and Jersey, and also to assist in the development of Jersey's international status and identity. So you may want to reference that particular document, because they have a document that has that, because there is no other constitution as such, right? No written constitution. There is also another document produced by the Ministry of Justice, and it is a fact sheet which outlines or details the UK's relationship with the Crown dependencies, because it is important to know that distinction, that relationship between the UK and the Crown dependencies, and why the British overseas territories in this regard were treated different than the Crown dependencies as well. Very important to know that. Also want to mention that today, I think around about 11 o'clock, the UK's Minister for the Overseas Territories, Lord Ahmad, will be arriving here in the Cayman Islands. He's only going to be here for about 5 hours, and you heard the Premier mention earlier on Friday the fact that he had been advised that he would be coming here only for 5 hours, mainly to talk about hurricane preparedness, disaster preparedness. But no doubt, someone is going to mention this whole issue, and where do we go from here with it as well. And also the Mounts Bay, if not already here, will be here to conduct exercises as well in relation to disaster preparedness. So those are some of the things that are on the table, at this point in time. We don't have a specific date yet. As to when the Legislative Assembly is going to meet. I'm not sure. I'm not privy to that information yet. But of course, that will be, to discuss the way forward and to discuss possible constitutional changes as well. And I just remember one little jewel that I have that I completely forgot about. Well, before that, let's. Someone has said re-privacy and public registers. They've sent me a link to that. I haven't opened that yet. But we spoke about a letter that was written by the then Minister for the Overseas Territories, Chris Bryant, to the Honorable W. McKeever Bush, and I have a copy of that, and I want to read that to you in relation to a referendum as well. So please stay tuned. We're going to take our last commercial break. When we return, I will read that contents of that letter to you, for you. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're on the last segment of our show this morning. We have one caller, but before I go to the caller, I promised that I would read the contents of this letter written to the then leader of the opposition, Honorable W. McKeever Bush. This letter is dated the 10th of June, 2009, written by Chris Bryant, and it reads, as part of the constitutional modernization process, the Cayman Islands government made the following proposal, and it's quoted: after the present modernization process has been completed, further changes to the Constitution should not be made without the authorization of a referendum, unless the change is decided by the Premier and the Leader of the Opposition to be minor or uncontroversial, in which case a resolution of Parliament would be sufficient. So if it is neither uncontroversial, right, then it can be made by them. And it also goes on to say the UK government should be invited to agree that it would honor this referendum requirement. Says, in general, the United Kingdom government approves the idea that substantial constitutional changes should be supported by the people of the Cayman Islands in a referendum. Accordingly, the United Kingdom government would normally use its best endeavors to honor this referendum requirement. However, there may be exceptional circumstances where it would not be possible or appropriate to do so. And for that reason, the United Kingdom government may reserve its position on the matter. So they may reserve their position depending on the situation. Anything that is uncontroversial, the leader of the opposition and the premier agrees, then all that is necessary is to go to the Parliament, seek their approval, and then present it to the UK. And then, of course, the UK would decide. I just wanted to pass that on to you. Caller, good morning. Sorry to keep you waiting. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Steve McField here. I think that letter that you just read sets out what I have been saying all along. To increase the age of the Grand Court judges from retirement from 65 to 70 was a minor amendment to the Constitution, and that was because when you look at the age of the Court of Appeal judges, there's no age limit for them to serve. So that was a minor thing. But when you go to remove Section 43, that says that the executive authority of the Cayman Islands rests with Her Majesty, and that authority, and that executive authority is exercised on the behalf of Her Majesty by the governor, a representative, the cabinet, and the civil servant. When you go to do that and to take away 125, that is a major, significant amendment to the Constitution, and that would require a referendum.
Now, as far as executive authority being vested in Her Majesty, I think that I did some research. That is in all of the overseas territories' constitution. Not only in the overseas territories' constitution, but those independent countries that are part of the Commonwealth. That phrase, that executive authority is vested in Her Majesty the Queen, is in all of those constitutions. And
it doesn't matter. It means that the Her Majesty can dismiss ministers and can refuse to amend constitutions when it comes to amendment, and can also if we wanted to go into if we amend the Constitution that would lead to independence, they could say we're not ready yet and we're not going to do that.
But you're talking about the whole phrase. I'm just referring to the part that executive authority being vested in Her Majesty the Queen. That can't be removed. But that's in all. As long as you're part of the Commonwealth or under British overseas territories, that will always be there.
The authority of the government rests with Her Majesty, not with the Premier.
Yeah, I agree. We agree on that.
All right, agree. Okay. Now, the fact sheet that you found about the Crown dependencies, of course, they are bailiwicks. They have never been part of the whole Commonwealth, and they have been part of the whole colonial system. Now to break up, they're not overseas territories.
They belong to the Crown.
They belong to the Crown. They're not even part of Scotland and Ireland.
Exactly.
They belong to the Crown. And they have a different particular arrangements with the Parliament of the United Kingdom.
Yep. In some cases, the Queen's Privy Council will allow laws for them. In other cases, it is the Chancellor, if I recall correctly.
The Foreign and Common Office doesn't even have anything to do with
Precisely.
And the significant part of what the guy was saying in Parliament about constitutional, he didn't want to have a constitutional dilemma, because they have an arrangement in writing that before the Parliament passed any laws that affect them, they have
would
to
consult
get
them.
Consent.
Yes.
They have to get their consent.
Yes.
We don't have any such thing here. And so that's what we should be pushing for. We should be going up to Westminster or where it is with a delegation from that represent the people by a referendum, and we should say these are the things that we want. We want to go back and open up that document, and we want to negotiate it.
Yeah, we have to ask for what is legally realistic.
Well, we need to ask for more than that and see what we can get.
Uh-huh.
You see? So the Crown dependencies are not overseas territories.
Nope.
And they're not part of the Commonwealth.
Agreed.
And they have a special relationship they are bailiwick.
Very special relationship.
You see? And so that is the reason why...
Not only that, they don't look like us either.
No, they don't look like us. And it's because they have their own... It's because they have their own immigration... to go there to live, you just can't go to England and go out there to live. They have their own. They have
internal self-government.
They're full of internal self-government.
Yes.
And another thing that they have that people might not think is significant, they have their own lieutenant governor.
Yeah, they don't actually have a governor. It is a lieutenant. Yes. Yeah.
We have a governor. We do not have a lieutenant governor.
Mm-hmm.
When you are independent, you have a governor general.
Mm-hmm.
When you are self-independent, you have a lieutenant governor.
Yeah.
That is what they wanted to give us in 1962.
Mm-hmm. And that lieutenant governor basically has similar responsibilities to our governor here. I think in some instances he can allow or disallow laws based on consultations with the Crown.
That's right. And that's what we wanted to give tax here, and we rejected it because we did not want Mr. Ormond to be the first chief minister, as they have it in the Crown dependencies.
Yep.
Go look at it. And that is the reason why the 1962 Constitution didn't come into effect on the 6th of August 1962. And that's the reason why the 1965 Constitution didn't come into effect. Those two. Because Mr. Ormond was running in 1965, and they said that they forgot the date before Parliament.
So, Doc, in relation to what we know that is being proposed so far, because they haven't gone into specifics yet, the Premier and the Leader of the Opposition were speaking generally in terms of what they wanted to change. Do you believe that a referendum, a plebiscite in the Cayman Islands is going to be required for that?
So exactly. And they should not get embarrassed and go up there because they have a referendum in the Cayman Islands to reinforce their position. That letter says so. That letter outlines what the British government expects. Because what they want to change is a thing of national importance, which is what it says, and it's a national issue, and it's a major constitutional change, and they should have it reinforced by a referendum of the people of the Cayman Islands.
Okay. Now the referendum would come in the same form then as our Constitution. You go and you negotiate, and then whatever you come back with and you arrive at, if it is of major significance and the UK insists that a referendum must be held, then you have the referendum after you have had. You wouldn't have a referendum before you go to the UK.
Well, it depends. If you want to, how are they going to gauge what actually the people want? I don't understand.
Well, in this case, I'm not sure that it is what the people want, as opposed to the fact that we know what has affected us in a negative way in terms of our legislators to be able to properly defend and protect the Cayman Islands against all enemies foreign. And that's my saying there. But, the politicians, they know what has affected them now. And while we do value the public's opinion, I believe in this particular case, it is this thing of he who feels it knows it. But Doc, I'm going to ask you to leave us there. We need to continue this conversation. And, I will give you a call and we'll talk more about it, but I have to go now. Thank you again for your input. Please feel free to call back at some other time as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. Before I go, I want to say that I have received something from the traffic, from an acting chief inspector within the traffic and roads policy unit in the RCIPS, and it says, I was listening to your show this morning and heard of the report of reckless driving reported to you by one of your listeners, and which allegedly took place on Shamrock Road. We at the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service Traffic and Road Policy Department take reports like these seriously, as inconsiderate driving such as this endanger the lives of other road users. Grateful if you or the caller can provide the information so we can address this. Please also thank the caller for reporting this as well, and we will pass that on. I want to thank the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service for responding to this as well, and we will certainly pass that information on to them. Folks, I want to encourage you to continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Drain Ebanks at 12 noon for Talk Today, and as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record.